Hi, this video is to talk about how to make a pinch pot for your clay frog that we're going to make. So you start with a sphere, just like always. I always just hold it in my hand. I never put it on the table when I make these, just because it makes a flat bottom. And you take your thumb and you kind of drill a hole into it. You have to kind of feel how thick it is. You want it to be about this thick. Okay, I need to push a little bit more. Okay, so I think that one's good. And now you just start pinching, and I keep my fingers flat like this. I don't pinch with a curved finger. That's not going to make flat edges. You only put your thumb in, and you just start pinching and turning. And about the worst thing that you can do is pinch it too much. Okay, so I'm going to pinch a little more. I will call that good. You want it to be still kind of thick around the edge. Okay, maybe about the thickness of your finger or so. And then that's it. That part is done. You can set it on the table and kind of flatten it a little bit because your frog mouth is going to go this way. But that's the beginning of your frog's body and face. The next piece of clay that you get is for rolling your coil. So I just start by squeezing it like this, and I always stand up when I roll coils. I think it's a lot easier. And you just start rolling, and you want to go back and forth with big long rolls and go side to side to make it longer. Almost there. I don't want to make it too much skinnier. I would say that that is good. It's plenty long. And it's about the size of my finger. So if you have smaller fingers, then maybe a little bit thicker than yours. But again, if you make it too skinny, it just gets too fragile, and the chance for it breaking just get higher and higher. So kind of keep it on the thick side. Alright, now it's time to start getting ready to put our frog together. We've got our pinch pot and we've got a coil already rolled. I got my tool, I got my slip, or goo as I call it. And so the first thing I do is I'm going to set my coil out so it kind of looks like a candy cane or a letter J. And I'm going to set it so my pinch pot goes right on top of it. And then you can see that there's way too much extra. We can use that for other legs, but we're going to cut it so it's about even with this other one. And I'm just going to set this aside. We could probably use that for something else, another arm later. Okay? So now, we know that when we put two pieces of clay together, you have to scratch and attach them. So we got to figure out where we need to do the scratching. And so I'm going to pick this up. And what I'm going to do is actually trace it, and I'm drawing on the pinch pot now. I'm going to trace where my leg is on the inside right here. And I'm also going to do it on the outside. Just like that. Now I can take this off. And you can see it makes this kind of a U shape. So that's where I'm going to scratch. And just scratch inside that. Okay, and now I have to scratch some of the legs too. I'm not going to do it all the way to the end because some of it sticks out. So I'm going to start maybe about right here. I'm going to stop before I get to the end. Okay, and now it's time to add the goo. Please do not use your tool for that. It just makes the tools even dirtier. Just put your finger in there. Don't be scared. And you kind of just dab it on there. If you smooth it, if you rub it a lot, you'll smooth out your scratches, which you don't want to do. You want to keep those. So I just dab it on. That's enough. And dab some on this part too. Alright. And you can either wipe the extra on the edge of your cup like this, or you can use a paper towel. Alright, now it's time to put these two together. Alright, so these are going to match up where the scratches are. You have to kind of push it and wiggle that together a little bit. Make sure that it's on there good. Okay, that's on there. And if you don't want this extra that oozes out, you can just use your finger to get rid of that. That's how you do your bottom legs. Alright, let's talk about putting some eyes on. I actually just took a couple little pieces off the end of my coil, and I already rolled one into a sphere shape, so I'll roll this one. Okay, and I actually like to press it on the table a little bit. Not very hard, but so you get kind of a little bit of a flat side. Makes it easier to attach. Okay, and go ahead and do the scratch. And decide where you want them on the top of your head. So maybe about right there, and then you can just mark it with your fingernail or something. And then you got to do some scratching there too. Okay. Back to the goo. Kind of press it and wiggle it on there. And then I like to give it some eyeballs just with the edge of my tool like that. Okay, that's how you get your eyes done. This should be your goal for the end of day one. Alright, let's talk about putting the other two legs on. This time we're actually going to scratch and attach to the side of the body and the leg. And the reason we do that is just to make it stronger. If you send it out here by itself, it'll probably break off. It would just be too fragile. So I'm going to see how long I want it. I make it about the same size as these other ones. It could be a little shorter, a little bit longer, but about the same size. Okay, and now I'm just going to put a mark right there, and I know I'm just going to start scratching. I scratch a little where I made the mark. And add the all-important goo. Remember, just tap it. And again, just sort of press it and wiggle it on there. And now I'm going to scratch and attach these two parts together. So just a little bit. Right on the side of the leg. And then a little bit right here. And you can see that they kind of meet up. Kind of press those together. And you do the same thing on the other side. Now, if you want to make these look a little bit nicer, sometimes you can use your tool to get this extra out of there. But I'm actually going to smooth this right in into the body so it looks like it's all part of the same frog. So you can kind of press it down and you can smooth that out so you don't even see any line there. Right into the body like that. Makes it look kind of better. And then if you want to make toes, smooth out the edges a little bit. Press them a little bit flat. Not too flat. You don't want it to be really thin, because then it could break again. And I just use my tool to gently press. I'm not cutting in very deep, but you can make toes that way. Okay, so I have one more leg to do on this side, but basically make it the same way. Alright, I'm back. You can see that I put on the other leg. And so at this point, this is a finished frog. Now, there's a couple more things we could do. We could add eyelids or tongue, or you could add some texture. But before we do that, I would take some time to look for any weird bumps or cracks like these that you can smooth out. It's probably the most boring part of working with clay. I call it refining clay. But it makes it look really finished. So if you have any, like here's one, it only takes just a second to smooth those out. I think it makes a big difference in making it look finished and nice. So I just check everywhere. There's a couple right here. Some weird bumps. Okay, I'd say that that's looking pretty good. So if you want to make a eyelid, you can. What I do is I actually use, if you have some old coil left, you can use that. I just break it off and then just sort of flatten it and make sure that it's big enough to go over. That one's not quite big enough. Sometimes you can pull clay to stretch it and make it longer. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now on this one, we're actually not going to scratch and attach. And I know I tell you that anytime you do it, you should be, which is true. But this is so thin that our scratching and attaching is probably not going to work. So you can sometimes just really smooth this together. And if this is going to work, you should see absolutely no line left at all. So I'm smoothing this right into the body. And you can see I'm getting rid of all of the line. So like this is what I'm talking about when I talk about a line. See this line right here? That has to be smoothed out. Okay, and you can see what it looks like with a eyelid and without. And you do not have to make one, and some of you might not have time, but if you have time and you want to put an eyelid on, you can. A tongue. A lot of people want to put on a tongue, which is also fine. Again, you use a coil. And if you're going to put a tongue on, you need to scratch and attach. So you'd be scratching all the way down the front of that mouth. Just like that. Okay, so you can see about how long it is. And then you're going to attach your coil in here. And I would not make this very long, and you hear me say that all the time. It's just because it's too fragile. So this is too long. And so I'm going to cut it about right here. And I'm actually going to roll this a little better, smooth this crack out a little bit if I can. Sometimes you just have to smooth it with your finger. Okay, and if you want to curl it a little bit, if you curl it just a little, you don't have to scratch and attach it. If you curl it a bunch of times, I think at the end it's smart to scratch and attach. But that does not stick out too far, and I think as long as you're careful with it, it won't break off. So I've already scratched that part. I need to scratch this part. And add the goo. And just like the arm, if you want to smooth it in, or if you want to get rid of this extra clay, I would just try to use your tool to gently take it out of there. And I would just smooth the back. Be careful about pressing down on your tongue, because it will just flatten it, especially if it's sitting on your table. That's why you see me holding it in my hand. It kind of helps me prevent that. But that's all I would do. I would say that that tongue is now done. Okay? And that's it. If you wanted to add some texture or something, you could do that if you wanted. I sometimes use my tool to add some sort of a bumpy texture. Something like that. Okay? But that's all kind of your personal choice. So it's almost done. Alright, and there is my finished frog. I'll just turn around. I got toes and tongue and eyelids. Sort of a texture mohawk maybe down his back. And that's it. I hope you like making your frog.